Today I'm going to hopefully take care of the frozen fuel filter problem in my Kubota permanently, with the help of this little guy. Hello everyone and welcome back to the homestead. I left you suddenly in the last episode with a tractor back there that wasn't running. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it up in the corner here. But this was a result of me deciding on my last fuel up that I didn't have any diesel treatment and I didn't need it. It would have been fine. It was going to be just fine. Everything was not fine. And there was water in the fuel and it gummed up my fuel filters. And on a Kubota BX, if you own one, you know they're tucked way up underneath there, or at least one of them is. It's a huge pain in the butt to change. And last night as I was under the tractor, covered in diesel, trying to get the filters out, and then once I did get them out, I saw that they were gunked up and I was gonna have to go buy new filters anyway. I couldn't clean and reuse the ones that I had. I just decided, screw it, I am going to relocate the first fuel filter externally so that it's easier to change. And that's where this guy comes in. This is the fuel filter off of an L series Kubota. I'll put the part number down in the description. But today we're gonna get under the tractor, we're gonna run lines, we're gonna mount this. I'm gonna use a mount that Mike over at Biff's Equipment came up with and used on his tractors. I'll actually show that. I'll link that video either up in the corner or down in the description, probably both. So I can't claim 100% of the ingenuity for this modification. People have been doing it using other filters for years, but using this filter, Biff was the one that kind of figured this out and I'm following his lead on it. Quick rundown of the parts that you're gonna need to do this. You'll need your Kubota fuel filter. You'll need hose clamps that fit 5/16 fuel line. You need about 8 feet of the fuel line. You're gonna need a 5/16 barb to barb connector. Brass is optimal, but I was unable to find one, so nylon. Nylon is diesel resistant, so that'll work just fine. Your front filter, if your filters are gummed up, you're not replacing the front filter, so you will need a Kubota BX front fuel filter. You'll need a piece of 1/8 by 3-inch metal stock. That's gonna be your mount. If you can find a piece that's like 6 inches long, cool, but otherwise you have to buy a longer piece. And you'll need some 5/16 bolts. These are 1 inch and then 3/4 inch, depending which size works. And you'll need some corresponding nylock nuts to secure the fuel filter to your bracket that you're gonna make. I'm gonna assume in making this video that you've already got your filters off from before. These are my filters that I took off last night. You can see, I don't know if the camera's gonna get it, but there is water in the fuel. You can see that in there. A lot of sediment. It was just gross. I wasn't going to try to save them. All right, so first things first, you're going to take your barb right there. You're going to grab one of your hose clamps, put it on your line. You're going to put your barb into the fuel line. Once you've got it all the way on, take your hose clamp, slide it up, and then tighten that down. So this might be tricky for you to see, but right here is where your stock fuel filter location was. What we're going to do is, instead of having the fuel filter here, we're going to run a hose up to the front of the tractor on the side by the loader mounting points. We're going to have our fuel filter there, and then we're going to run a hose back to here where the lifter pump is, and that's going to pump it up to the second fuel filter and then the injector pump, which sits right next to the engine. So essentially, instead of having to climb under here and fuss with it to change the fuel filter, we're going to be able to just do it from standing at the side of the tractor. So we're going to take the whole length and we're going to put it here. All right, so kind of hard for the camera to pick up, but here's your old fuel hose where it came down, where my pinky is over here. There's our junction with the 5/16 double barb, and then here's our new fuel hose right here. We're going to take this and we're going to run it up front to where we're going to mount the fuel filter. So right here we've got our fuel line that's now run up and through. All you have to do is follow the other fuel line that comes out of that lifter pump, which comes out right here in this wire loom, and follow it right up. And I want to run it under the other stuff because our fuel filter is going to mount right here. The way it works out is you're going to cut that 1/8 by 3-inch stock in about a 5.5 inch piece. You're going to bend 1.5 inches of it over, and that's going to actually go back in here, and that's where you're going to mount your fuel filter. It's going to mount right to that bolt right there, and then it's going to fit perfectly in between those two mounting bolts for your loader mount. We're going to bend that piece up We're going to get it mounted, and we're going to come back, and then we can run the line back. Let's go throw this in the vise and bend that over. So the bracket will fit perfectly in between these. The idea is that it will be high enough. He's in there. That will level it. So that's going to be there. That's my height, and actually this washer is gonna go I want that sitting on the edge of there. Yeah, I can use this washer. Okay. So basically, knowing that that's my height from the bottom, I have to do that. I can move this. I can use this washer to center on that and mark my hole. So that's where we're going to be drilling that. I guess the good thing about this whole situation and the way it turned out is that it wasn't a crazy big snowfall, so at least we can get in and out of the driveway. So I've got my fuel filter now. I've got the bracket with the hole drilled on it set up over here, and I'm now just going to look and see about where I want to mount this. I want to use the inside of the bracket to hold these nylocks from the bottom so that I can tighten them up. Alright, so we're going to install the bracket first, and then we will come in and tighten everything down together. We'll put this on top after and tighten that. This was the part when I saw Mike doing it, it seemed kind of like, I don't know if that's going to work. But, I don't know, we're going to see. We'll see if they catch. So here we are. She's mounted. She's pretty stout. Not going anywhere. That 1/8 inch is plenty, especially when you bend it like that. So now I've just got to cut the fuel line, attach it to the filter, and then what I'll do is I will run the other end of the fuel line, the remaining 4 feet I have, back underneath the tractor and connect that to the lifter pump, and that will complete the circuit. Replace this fuel filter up here, and then we should be able to prime it and start it. So now that you've got everything up under here and you kind of know where this is going to go, you can zip tie everything in. Zip ties. There's some factory loom under here that's great for that. And when you know where that's going to go, you can cut that. You can put your hose clamp on it. And you can attach it up to that lifter pump. And that's the hard part. And that's kind of, I'm behind the camera, so it might be hard to hear me, but there's your lifter pump. Your hose coming out, curving around, going back up front. And then this is the hose from the tank running up to the filter up there. So now we have no filters underneath the tractor at all. All right, everything's hooked up here. I agree with Biff. I don't like this kind of janky setup. There's an overflow on top. But since you've got a pump going into it, if you leave this open, it'll just pump fuel out of that. So for now, this is what we've got. I did try to pull the nipple out that's in there, and it's threaded in there real tight. I think it's Loctited in there good. So until we get a little bit better looking solution, that's that. And then we have our secondary filter up here. And then this goes into the injection pump. To bleed this whole thing, you're going to turn on the key. You are going to open this valve until you see a steady stream of fuel coming out. It's going to bleed a bunch of air. And then eventually, once you see fuel coming out, your float bowl down here, your sediment bowl down here will be filled up with fuel. You'll see this filter fill up with fuel, and then you'll see a steady stream of fuel coming out there. And that is when you know your tractor is primed and you can start her up at that point. There's that air. All right, there's our fuel. I'm cold. I can't feel my hands. I've got diesel in my hair. Quick dry too, but it's done and nothing's leaking. I let the pump run, so we're gonna fire this thing up now. I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna cross my fingers because I'm gonna jinx myself if I do that. Let's just do it. I don't think all of you have any idea how happy that sound of a smooth idling tractor is making me right now. It took a second to get up and going. Even though I bled it, the injector pump still probably had a little bit of air in there that it needed to get out. I'm gonna let it idle and come up to temperature, and then I'll make a few passes down the driveway. But for now, I'm gonna call this a success, unless something happens, in which case I'll come back and let you know, I guess. You know, this sort of thing happens. If you own a tractor, you know that dealing with fuel filters and iced up diesel and gelled up diesel when it's really cold, it was 7 degrees this morning, so typically diesel would gel there if you didn't have winter diesel, which I did have winter diesel. I still treat it anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna do the driveway, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.